This is a video that I made about the time when I went to Guildford courthouse reenactment on March 15th, 2025. I edited this myself, so I hope you all enjoy it.
Up to Camden, he'd come up through to Charlotte, had to drop back down again because now his flank was wide open after Ferguson was defeated. So he went down to the town of Winnsboro, South Carolina, which isn't too far out of Columbia, present-day Columbia, and set up the camp there. Well, he decides he's going to send out another raiding party to try and see if he can stir up some more interest in loyal troops coming to him and to put down all of these rebels that were raising up around him. Now, by then, General Gates, who had been defeated at Camden, he's been replaced by Nathaniel Greene, which I guess everybody from Greensboro has an idea who he was. Nathaniel Greene was based on Tarleton, but there all the history ends. Don't see that movie for history. It's good action flick, not good history. Well, Tarleton had infantry, artillery, cavalry, comes to the cow pen, runs into those lines, gets defeated. And I mean, he was defeated big time. Dan Morgan captured most of his army. So he's taking a bunch of these prisoners up into Virginia. Cornwallis wants those men back, so from Winnsboro, South Carolina, he marches all the way up into the Charlotte area, all the way up to Salisbury. He stops there for a few days. Now, before that, at Ramser's Mill, he had burned all of his excess baggage because he was moving too slowly. So the men have basically what they're carrying on their backs, and they got a few wagon loads of provisions and such. But they're marching on foot from the middle of South Carolina up into North Carolina. They stop in Salisbury, have their shoes repaired, and every man had an extra pair of shoe soles put in his blanket roll before he left to go after Dan Morgan. Nathaniel Greene had met right around Guildford courthouse. He looked at this ground then. He saw it and said, you know, this would be a good place to defend. He met up with Dan Morgan, and they went up into Virginia. This was called the Race to the Dan. If you look up the Race to the Dan, you'll see how they made this campaign through the Carolinas in the middle of February and into March, all the way up to the Dan River near South Boston, where Greene had already pulled all the boats to his side of the river. South Carolina before that. So you had Webster with his regiment, and the next regiment over was the 23rd Regiment of foot meaning infantry, of course. The 23rd is otherwise known as the Royal Welch Fusiliers. They had a history going all the way back to 1689. They had fought in the major battles under Marlborough. Again, you've got the best of the Continental armies against the best of the British army. That's why at least one author historian has written on the campaigns in the South refers to the Battle of Guildford. The Super Bowl.
I went back. Yeah, I
can't see like no more than an hour. And that's why you had a bloody battle there. Now again, I want to thank everyone that's come for being with us today. We appreciate you coming out. We appreciate you supporting the Greensboro Parks and Rec by coming. We appreciate you supporting the Guildford Battleground Company, which is the sponsor, which has provided things like the sound systems and the porta-johns and all these other things. I encourage you all, when it's over with, to go down to the camp, visit the camp, engage in conversation with the troops. They will be packing up. Because of the weather report for tomorrow's events have been canceled. There will be nothing taking place here tomorrow. Most people don't like the idea of being in a tent when they're going to have thunderstorms and possible tornadoes. Some of us have done that. Hopefully tomorrow's event has been canceled. Now because of that, we're going to have a little bit different battle today. The Battle of Guildford Courthouse proper started about noon to 1 o'clock in the afternoon with a cannonade between American cannons, British cannons, while Lord Cornwallis started deploying his line. Greene was already in line, but the battle itself had really started that morning at sunup, literally at sunrise. Up in the area, if you know where Fleming Road and New Garden Road and College Road all come together, doing pretty well. Now again, again, you would not have been hearing this because this is sunrise at New Garden Friends Meeting House. This is the meeting house battle going on. Just kind of bumping into each other, feeling each other out. So it's going to be kind of come and go for a little while. Now these are primarily just light troops bumping into light troops and dragoons taking pot shots at one another. Now remember, you're not too well trained. Some of you out there, I know we got some veterans in this room. Veterans, real veterans, hold your hand. Let's see who we got here today. Real veterans, you ever served? All right. You will find a large percentage of real veterans among the troops that are coming at us here on both sides. Those are musicians. At that time, a musician wore the reverse colors of what his regiment wore. So the coat is blue with red lapels, collar, cuffs. That's referred to as facings. Lapel, collar, cuffs, that's facings. As you see the officer walking along there. Blue coat, red facings. Well, then their musicians wear red coats with blue facings. That's why the Marine Corps band in Washington, D.C. wears red coats now, to this day. Okay, now, the artillery from both sides, the actual artillerymen wore blue coats. Now, with the artillery, you might see some men in red coats, or in here, you see some guys, a couple of guys are wearing what they call a rifle frock or a hunting shirt. That's that natural colored garment that has the cape on it. A lot of troops wore that, particularly in militia units. Washington kind of liked it because he thought that it was a psychological factor when dealing that the British would see somebody dressed like that and think he was a sharpshooter or a rifleman. Smokeless powder. Like if I'm a sniper, I can be out here hidden and I can be picking guys off, and with smokeless powder, you'd have to really have a hard time trying to find me. With black powder, as soon as I fire a shot, you got this great big huge plume of white smoke that says, there that sucker is, shoot that guy. So, I'm talking fighting troops.
Feel that?
There were about 1,900 British troops on this field.
Look like
At the end of the day, Cornwallis had lost about 27% of his.
The horses look like
Mostly in the Guards and Webster's Brigade. They're the ones that got it the worst.
The horses are
The Americans showed many more losses in numbers, but a lot of the numbers are missing because a lot of the militiamen went out. So the actual numbers were only a few hundred on either side. There were actually less than 200 killed. And then a few more died of wounds later on, and of course some will never know about if they went home and died at home or something. So the casualty rate among the Americans was considerably
they look
less.
like they've taken a
because
few
lot of the militiamen came
casualties.
back later on.
They lost 2.
But it's hard to pin a number on it because the records weren't that good. Let's see what's going on out here now.
Oh no, they're gonna fire the cannon.
Lose the action. Okay, see what I mean about the smoke? Look over on the left.
Bro, they're so
You
close.
got horse troops moving on the right.
Whoa.
This would be William Washington's division in white uniform. They got them from France. William Washington's
so
3rd
close.
Continental Dragoons. A dragoon soldier was technically supposed to be a mounted infantryman. He was supposed to ride to the site of the battle, dismount, and fight like an infantryman, but by this point, they were mostly being used as light cavalry. Now you can see some more American militia troops over on the left, about halfway down the hill. They're deploying.
I'm just focused on the horses.
The horses are digging. It looks like one of the horses are digging.
And we're kind of in between things now. There have been some battles going. We had the battle starting at deep over at the New Garden Friends. Of course, when the Americans fell back, they had to get organized and move in the roads. There were a couple other
Going back.
sharp skirmishes.
Oh, that's smoke. There's smoke coming.
One of those dragoons who have been in battle are starting to get real nervous. The British are beginning to deploy. They're coming down New Garden Road or the Great Salisbury Road, and they're deploying with, from their point of view, the 33rd to their left, the 23rd 71st and Von Boza, with the guards coming up in reserve. Now this is just a couple of cannon shots, and look at how much smoke we got. And these look like some of Kirkwood's Delawares that we're seeing in the center. Yes. The question is, would they normally be standing close together? In this time and period, again, due to the technology, they would. The American military didn't win a whole lot of big battles until after they learned how to stand in straight lines and fire by volley the same way the French did, and the British did. Again, because of the technology. The musket positions. Okay, you can kind of look down in the middle here. You can see Singleton's bringing his guns back. He's withdrawn them from the first line. The cannons were withdrawn from the first line. He's coming back here to where the third line troops are going to be.
Oh, you saw that. Oh,
now we get into the second line fight. You can see the British coming down the hill.
The shots fired.
In the second line fight, everything went completely to pot. Both generals lost control totally of the battle. At this point, it's in the hands of captains, of sergeants. It became the military has a term for it. I won't repeat that term, but the first word is cluster. And that's what it turned into. You wound up with two separate battles going on. This is where the second line troops at the beginnings break into two separate lines. One comes in this direction, fights pretty much through the cemetery and to where we're even standing right now. All of this was part of the battlefield, and then the main force, what we're going to represent here is the main force coming up New Garden Road to the third line at the courthouse. Fighting became very fierce. It could be down to just a handful of one side against a handful of another. There was one point in this action where the Hessians were back-to-back firing in two different directions because they were surrounded by American troops. Total confusion. One common factor to any battlefield and any time in history is chaos, and this battle represents it. Hey man, you've been holding your hand up for a long time. I want to give you a chance here. What you need? Say again. They're kid skin. Young goat. Well, some did.
I didn't hear that.
He was asking about my gloves. I was telling him they're made of goat skin. Okay. Not under his direct command.
Oh, you see the British, the redcoats. The redcoats are here. You need to shoot off that cannon right now.
Dan Morgan at Cowpens. Dan Morgan at the Battle of Cowpens. He said today it's called defense in depth. 3 different lines, 3 different levels of ability in the troops, using them to the best advantage of that particular group of troops. Use your least experience, get a couple of shots off, and then get the heck out of Dodge, because you know you're not going to hold when they come at you with bayonets. You're not trained for it. Second line, get some more shots in, shred them, break them up. And now they're going to come in, and it's going to be like the hammer hitting the anvil of my regular troops in the third line. That's how it was done at Cowpens. That's how Green did it here, following the exact same thought process.
Oh, I see.
It's just that he was up against a darn sight better group of troops and a much better group of commanders than what. Hold on.
Reinforcements. We'll probably get reinforcements.
Okay, we see some of the troops from the second line withdrawing back to the third line position. Now, you're going to have to use your imagination a bit. The regular Continental troops the 1st Maryland. They've actually been standing out here the whole time. You just didn't notice it. And
Oh, I
these are
see
now
the
going to
Brits.
represent the 1st Maryland
There's the
troops.
Brits. I see them. I see the Brits. Here comes boy.
Now you see some men in here wearing hunting shirts and they're wearing hats with yellow trim. That's a uniform that was attributed to the Delaware Regiment at the time when they had to be resupplied by North Carolina. They're not artillerists,
Oh, there's
they're
some
actually
skirmishers.
infantrymen and continentals, but their uniforms had just worn out while they were on campaign. We actually don't have any real personalities out here portraying either Green or Cornwallis. Okay, and we see some of the second line Virginia militia coming out on our left. Now what's going to happen with these fellows is, again, use your imagination, these have just become the men of the 2nd Maryland Regiment. These are 2nd Maryland. Remember, these aren't as well trained. These guys, most of them have no combat experience. 33rd Regiment coming out at this point. The men that you see in front of you with the white feathers in their hats are in the uniform of the 23rd. The 1st Maryland knows how to fire a good volley.
That was cool. Wasn't that loud though? After you just like, you get used to the cannon and the gunfire and the smoke. Oh, here comes the British.
Charge bayonets. Webster's coming right at them.
Oh, that's scary. The British. Oh, you see some men going down.
And this is what essentially
Oh, there we go. Finally, they got some shots.
heavy casualties.
Oh, they're running. Ah, yes, the first.
They were treated badly by this one. The 30. Look at the lay of the ground, and you see how General Greene picked it. You'll see that he picked an area where troops coming at him had to get down into a smaller force coming at him. He could take his whole line and fire at just a small number. They were coming at him piecemeal. What's called defeat in detail. So the 33rd came out and got slaughtered. This is where Lieutenant Colonel Webster got wounded in the leg.
Whoa.
Now at this point, the British probably only had a couple. They had 2 3-pounder guns, which were lighter than the Americans' guns, and they were moving them through the area. But again, they're still fighting on the more southern flank. Got completely lost. General Greene didn't know where half his army was. That's confused.
Smoke ring.
And just dealt a deadly blow to the Webster troops of the 33rd.
There's the cavalry.
They withdrew.
I would love to do a reenactment. Looks so fun.
The remains of the 33rd trying to keep up some fire on the American troops.
Oh. Bro, all this cannon and gunpowder is making me warm.
And the 1st Maryland is concentrating on
You
what's left of
You ever
Webster's
get that
troops.
feeling when you're super excited and your guts feels weird? That's what I'm feeling right now.
Webster's coming at him again.
Oh, it's going longer.
Heavy
Bro,
casualties.
they're shooting a lot of crowds. Oh, there's a guy dead. A dead guy. No, they're just fought. It's flake round. It's flake round. Smoke round. Oh yeah, that's not smoke. Not bad. Not good for your lungs. Smoke smells good. I actually shot
Uh-oh. Somebody lay down.
Yeah, I saw they went down.
People are down.
People are dying. Oh, he's. No, he's dead. He gave up. Oh, that's a big smoke ring. That's a big smoke ring. But in this particular battle, they lost.
Constituted itself.
Fire!
Now you do see some troops. I believe the young man was asking about green uniforms and the other hats. If you see, if you look in the middle of the field,
Wait, how did
you can see that far at the British line. You see some green coated
One
troops.
came back to life.
These are troops of Carlton's Legion Light Infantry. There wouldn't be many of them left. That's the Legion Light Infantry, wearing the green coats and the little black caps. Now what's happening is the Marylanders are reacting to the approach of First Maryland is still fighting against Webster. The Guards are coming at the Second Maryland. Now, the Second Maryland is the green troops, remember?
They're retreating. Shoot them!
Oh, no.
Oh, he's surrendering.
And the Brits are going to take the guns. The Guards have captured the cannon. And now the First Maryland had seen them. The First Maryland is reacting. The First Maryland's reacting to the Guards, and now they're engaged. In the real battle, what happened at this point was they basically came at each other. They mixed it up in a hand-to-hand fight that was extremely fierce. And a lot of casualties on both sides. We're not going to do that because of safety. These aren't trained stunt actors, and the bayonets are real. But the First Maryland acted immediately to engage the Guards.
Oh, one down.
They mixed it up in hand-to-hand combat. And what's happening over on the right now, the 23rd Regiment, Royal Welsh Fusiliers, represented by the men in the hats with the white feathers in them, they have come together and they are proceeding through the woods, trying to get the sound of the guns. Green is beginning to see that he's got some problems here.
Oh, look at oh no. They're good.
Now again, in the actual battle, the Marylanders and the Guards were in close combat. this is when it got ugly. You had Washington's dragoons behind them. You had the 1st Maryland in front of them, and now's when Lord Cornwallis came out, and he saw the melee with the guards and the 1st Maryland mixing it, and the cavalry, and he was alone, unprotected from the cavalry had they seen him. This was the point where Cornwallis ordered his cannon to fire into the melee. He was actually firing at Washington's dragoons. He was firing at the cavalry. But of course the rounds didn't tell where they went.
There's a lot of bodies. Smoke ring. Brother, retreat, buddies.
Now, if you look down to the right, coming up out of the woods, you see the Ansbach-Beroit Jaegers in green. You see von Bose Hessians. Looks like the Jaegers are taking a cannon right now. Now you start looking at what's left on the field.
Are they on the British team?
They're British.
There were about 400 or 500 killed. Which doesn't sound like a lot of numbers in terms of great battles of later on, but it was costly.
They get both cannons.
It was very costly. This battle
Left and right.
was the last major big land battle of the American War for Independence. This battle stopped Lord Cornwallis's campaigns in the Carolinas. After this battle, he had to withdraw all the way down to Wilmington to rest and refit, and then he decided to move up into Virginia to meet up with an army that would be led by Benedict Arnold of all people. And that was the army that then went to Yorktown, and we all know what happened at Yorktown. But this battle essentially ended the Southern campaigns. There were still battles that took place at Hobkirk's Hill, 96, other places. General Greene, Nathaniel Greene, never won a battle. In his entire career, he never won a battle.
No, they retreated because they didn't
But
want
he won
more
his campaign.
casualties.
That's what's important. Lord Cornwallis never lost a battle until he got to Yorktown. And this led to that. And as you can see, the cost was high.
It all
The
has to do
actual
with
cost would have been
morale.
more people killed and wounded in the battle than
If
you
see a
saw in the
lot of
entire
people
field when everybody
that
was
like
there.
have very
And
fancy.
unfortunately at that time, they
Always
could not
checking
do
bodies.
what they're going to do now. Gentlemen, you've done a fine job today. Rise up.
Wait, what if they
Soldiers, rise up.
I
Wish I could do that for real. Okay, what you have in front of you,
know.
the Guards Brigade over there
that
is
was
made
like
up
a
of a
real-
combination of troops. Some of them are actually North Carolina Royalists.
Bro, they
Some
keep
of them
on
are
trying to.
from,
They
are
keep
in the
on
uniform of the
stabbing.
7th Regiment of
Oh, now
Foot,
they're
which was
getting
also
up.
known as the Royal Fusiliers. There were 3 Fusilier regiments. The
Yeah,
Royals, which were the
battles.
7th, they had pretty well got creamed at Cowpens, but there were some 7th Regiment troops at Guildford Courthouse because some of them were wounded and were treated at the New Garden Friends meeting. We have
Oh, they were
records of
actually
that.
warm.
You look if you look at modern day Germany,
It's very
a lot of
good.
those kingdoms or little areas would have been in the German area. So yeah,
Most of them are
okay, we're
probably
headed.
loyal.
Okay,
Story.
he's gonna start moving. Any other
Probably
questions?
about that many still remaining.
no,
after the Cowpens.
I like the code.
Thank you.
How big is the
Uniforms of the
horses?
33rd
Is the what?
They're
Regiment.
massive.
How
Oh,
big
well,
are
you
the
can
We
see
spot them because they have red coats with red
They're really
faces,
this high?
different colored
Their
faces.
backs?
Royal regiments all had.
I'm just a
blue
dumb
faces.
soldier.
Royal regiments had blue
Yes.
faces
So,
for the Germans.
so about the
American
horses,
army was
like
supposed to have some
how many
identifiers.
like horses
It
or how
never
big
really
would the
worked
horses
out
be?
because of the
to be in the cavalry regiment?
Actually, during the American War, there was all various kinds of horses. Some were really great horses, big ones. Other ones were junky old ones, and they took whatever they could and to ride because it gave them, they didn't have to walk. So some of them were junky. Now, if you had good quality horses and you were cavalry, you could chase down cavalry units that had bad horses, or they called them ponies or something like that when they were bad. See how dirty I got?
Yeah, with all that.
Probably on my face too.
You all do the most amazing job, and you're teaching the young kids our history.
I
and
do
I
love it, and that's one of the reasons I like to do it. And this community here in Greensboro is like the bomb. You guys come out always, even in bad weather. You guys support this event, and the guy. Pato Kelly is a crazy guy, but he makes these great scenarios. So he did both the new garden, the preliminaries to Guildford Courthouse, and this battle all in smeared them into one. And we had a limited number of people because of tomorrow's weather. So a lot of people either stayed, because I'm from Maryland, some people are from Delaware. And we got one from Oklahoma.
How old would you be, and how can I become a reenactor?
16 years old typically, and but you'll have to find a unit. Look up the Continental Line. There's a North Carolina 6th. If you go down there, the North Carolina 6th is down here. If you go to the camp, talk to them. And they may have different rules in 1st Maryland, but at 16 is when you can finally carry this.
What would happen after the battle?
Probably 16, you'll have to have a parent with you. Probably at events. We're going to have another, in Maryland, we'll have a 16-year-old carrying a musket because I kind of adopted him. He's a really responsible kid. So we have to be very responsible, very respectful of the amount of danger that these things actually have, even though you're only shooting black powder bullets, but they could blow a cantaloupe apart.
To the regimental surgeons,
Sure.
which would have been sent up to the rear. They didn't have field medics. They would take them back.
Guildford came at the end of a really hard time for the British in the Carolinas. In February, Lord Cornwallis had them burn their tents and their baggage so they could go faster while they were trying to chase the Canyon Green. So it was hard times, in March of '81 for the British. Very little to eat, no shelter, bad weather. So morale wasn't too high.
An American, I'd be talking to Virginia. There was no, we just happened to be the first person.
So your dad did this?
He dragged me around.
The military. My dad did.
You would just have to walk and march towards them, and they would just run.
Well, ideally, yeah. But, as the Continental's got better training, they would be less. It's a hobby. Here's your uniform. Well, yeah, it's just, it makes this a really long speed.
It's basically like
Do y'all do the reenactment down there? Is all part of it? Is that like a British one?
There's British, then there's Avengers, something like that.